Jenny Lee, folklorist, history teacher, and storyteller, is back with a witchy story based in Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
As I'm sitting down to tell you this story tonight, we're coming into the last days of March. Since it is International Women's Appreciation Month, I thought I would tell you the story of my favorite witch from Cape Cod. Her name was Liza Tower Hill. And oh, what a witch she was. They say she lived on her own, far out into the Barnstable woods near Halfway Pond, which it was said she loved to haunt. And the stories about her are as wild and wicked as she was beautiful. The old folks used to say that she could be seen dancing across the surface of the pond at night, as though it were made of glass, with white flames licking at her feet. They also said she could turn herself into a huge black cat, with great big eyes, yellow as the moon. And if anyone were to give her offense, they'd find themselves haunted by that huge black cat, and wherever it went, calamity would soon follow. But the thing that Liza Tower Hill was most famous for was witch riding. It's a peculiar little practice that I've only ever heard attributed to witches from New England, so I think they must have invented it here. But what is witch riding, you might ask? Well, let's say that someone, usually a man, gives offense to a local witch. Maybe he wrongs her, slights her, insults her in some way, but she takes her revenge like this. Late one night, that man will awake to see before him the witch standing there in the dark, with a bridle made of hickory and hawthorn in her hand. And before he can blink, she'll have pulled him out of bed, fit her bridle over his head, and climbed up onto his back, and dug her heels into his ribs, kicking him and spurring him on, and riding him like a horse up and down and wherever she wants, however long she wants. As you can imagine, it was a fate most men of the time wanted to avoid, and Liza Tower Hill was particularly known for loving this form of punishment. A Mr. Wood of West Barnstable, in fact, once said that Liza Tower Hill rode him every night all the way from Halfway Pond up to Plum Pudding Pond in Plymouth for her nightly witch meetings. Lots of other men came forward with the same kind of stories. But then again, Liza Tower Hill was supposed to be very beautiful, so sometimes I wonder if this wasn't just wishful thinking on the part of the men of Barnstable. There was one man, however, whom Liza Tower Hill's attentions were not welcomed by. His name was Benjamin Goodspeed, and a more upright and moral man you couldn't imagine, and he was no fan of Liza Tower Hill's hijinks. It's said that that was the very reason that she liked to torment him especially. Her witch riding and nightly visits got so bad that Goodspeed was forced to find refuge at sea, and he found the first ship out of the Cape he could. But the very first day of the voyage, he looked over the side of the ship and was greeted with a strange sight. A huge black cat with big yellow eyes swimming in the wake of the ship. And that night, as he lay in his hammock, Liza Tower Hill appeared to him, her bridle in his hand. And she pulled him out of that hammock, and she fit that bridle over his head and climbed onto his back and kicked her heels into his ribs and kicked him and spurred him on and rode him up and down the deck of that ship all night long. The next day, Goodspeed went to the captain for help. He told him of his plight, and the captain, who had tangled with all manner of strange sights at sea, advised him to take his pistol, go to the edge, and shoot the cat. Well, Goodspeed did as the captain asked. He went over to the side of the ship, and he looked down, and there it was, the huge black cat with the big yellow eyes, swimming, keeping pace with the ship. And he pointed that pistol very carefully. And bang! He shot the cat straight between the eyes, and it sank down beneath the waves, and for just 1 second, Goodspeed felt sweet relief. And then that relief sank into despair when he watched, up like a cork, the cat pop back up above the waves and keep on swimming as though nothing had happened. And that night, once again, was Liza Tower Hill waiting for him when he slept, her bridle in hand, and all night she rode him up and down, marching him back and forth across that ship. In the morning, he dragged himself from his hammock, his sides covered with bruises from her heels where she spurred him and kicked him on. And he went back to the captain and he told him, and the captain, this time, decided something else was needed. Now, the captain had dealt with witches before, and he knew the only true way to deal with a witch was with silver. So, he took out his own sea trunk, and he pulled from it his beautiful Sunday coat, lovingly made for him by his wife, replete down the front with silver buttons. He ripped one of those precious buttons off his coat, and he loaded it into his own pistol, and he handed it to Goodspeed. And he told him, between the eyes, "Don't miss." Goodspeed took the pistol, his hand shaking, not just a little bit, and he went back over to the side of the ship, and he saw that cat swimming there, and he took aim right between those huge yellow eyes, and bang! Once more, the cat was struck, and this time, when it sank beneath the waves, it didn't appear again. Now miles, miles away, back on the shores of Cape Cod, it said that Liza Tower Hill was sitting at her spinning wheel, spinning very carefully, very focused, as though in a trance, when all of a sudden, at the faintest sound of something that could have been a gunshot far in the distance, Liza Tower Hill suddenly seized up and fell over her spinning wheel, dead. Benjamin Goodspeed was bothered no more. Now, if you don't like that ending for our witch Liza Tower Hill, I wouldn't worry too much. Despite what appears to be her death in this story, it doesn't stop her from cropping up in many other stories that dot the Cape up and down the shores. And no matter how many times she seems to die in these stories, she always manages to come back. If there's one thing that the good people of the Cape know, it's that you can't keep a good witch down for long.
A good witch or a good woman? Thank you, Jenny.